So many times when I'm speaking to someone about succession planning, inheritance tax planning, they always tell me about the fact that they have their friend or family member to be their executor. And I look at them in despair. And I hope that this video really comes across as why I might be doing that in the most sincerest of ways, even though my expression may be less so when I'm talking to them. So one of the things that I want to talk to you about is some of the problems that you may have using the wrong executor or not following the right probate process and problems that exist. So one of the things that happens quite a lot actually is the overvaluation of assets, whether it's buy-to-let property, stocks, shares, bank accounts even. They put numbers on a record, IHT 400 forms, go through the whole probate process and then overpay inheritance tax because they've used the wrong numbers, which is a real shame. There is a complex process for a probate in itself. So that in itself can lead to deadlines being missed, potential fines, and just holding up the process, creating more stress for everyone concerned. Not utilizing IHT and residential nil rate band, RNRB, during lifetime. I mean, there are ways of saving yourself inheritance tax if you do things correctly. One of the things that people don't realize is that the residential nil rate band up to £175,000 only works if you pass your home to a descendant. If you put it to a trust, then it doesn't work. So that's something for you to think about, plans that you do beforehand. But your executor really should be part of that process. And if they're skilled in a certain industry like finance and tax, even better. Unclaimed assets, which is a huge thing for me right now. There are billions of pounds worth of assets that remain unclaimed and go to the Crown, the Duchess, in fact. So this really happens quite a lot, and it happens even more so if you have foreign investments as well, such as a holiday home, which is not being correctly identified in the list of assets that the deceased had. Which is a real shame, isn't it? When you think about, well, where does that go eventually? No money to pay IHT. Interest and assets are not released. If you do not pay your inheritance tax liability, then there is no way that you can get hold of those assets. The only way that HMRC and creditors will release those assets is if the debts are paid and the tax is paid. Then you get your assets. But without that, there is no way of getting money. And again, that can cause a lot of issue, especially if you've got all your money tied up in buy-to-let property investments, which is a key focus of what we still advise on. But we are now focusing, of course, on investments in more general terms. And that's really where we would say buy-to-let is not everything you should be holding money into. You should spread your risk and get some liquid funds as well that can be easily sold to pay your IHT liability and have the money transferred back to you. So some of the things I want to discover with you is some of the example issues that I find. Fines and interest, property undervalued by £200,000. Again, it swings the other way. A property can be undervalued or overvalued. If you've undervalued it, then £80,000 worth of IHT may not be paid. And again, if HMRC do a valuation, they can come after you for that balance. And by the way, as the executor, if this is your fault and it was proven to be your fault, you are personally liable for it, not the estate necessarily. That's an interesting conversation to be had with the beneficiaries, isn't it, once it's all done and dusted. So missed RNRB, so missed the residential nil rate band. Missed residential nil rate band, £70,000 worth of extra tax liability needlessly given away. Why is that? Because they may have transferred the property into a trust rather than a descendant. So again, we need to think about that. But it could also happen if you've got net assets exceeding £2 million. That's a big tax liability to pay, which is needless. Disputes between families. I mean, crikey. They always say that money splits families, doesn't it? And it's so true. Disputes after death is not good. If you have an executor, you should be doing teamwork together to discuss where assets are going to be transferred. And that's a rough conversation to be having before you passed away, of course. It's even worse after. Debts, overlooking creditor claims resulting in personal liabilities. I mean, the executor may have a lot on the line because they don't understand what their responsibilities are. And by the way, I can already see, if you're an executor, you're probably contacting your friends where you said, I'll be an executor, no problem. I can rather suspect I can see texts and phone calls and emails going in saying, hey, do you know when I said I'll be your executor? Change of heart, really. Yeah, I wouldn't blame you, by the way. Before we go any further, there are a couple of things I want you to look at. There's the free ebook, which you can download using that QR code. The link will also be in the description box, as will the link for the training course on legacy as well. Again, the QR code is there for you to download and watch. Okay, so executors, probate, solutions to your problems. And this is really the key thing, is list all the assets and debts. Give access to your family. You need to identify all of your assets, pensions, ISA accounts, bank savings accounts, loans, mortgages, property in the UK, property outside the UK, cars that you may have. All of those things do need to be listed, and it needs to be shared and discussed with the wider family, but at least with the executor. Without having that information, assets could easily be left unclaimed. Second thing is to identify a capable and trustworthy executor. You don't want an executor who's just nodding because they love you and they want to do the best for you. You want them to be capable to be able to do this. It's not just for you, it's for the beneficiaries. So make sure you choose wisely. Family meetings and walkthrough training. What I mean by training, part of our service on the legacy is to help your executors to understand their role and responsibilities and give them support all the way through your life and afterlife as well, so they don't have that sense of overwhelm. But we can be part of that training for you, but at least you need to have a family meeting, discuss all of your will details, assets, liabilities, who's going to get what, and have those discussions so no disputes can arise. Hopefully. Make gifts to avoid probate. There are certain assets that are going to be subject to probate, and there are going to be certain assets that are not subject to probate. So if you've got a current account in joint names, husband, wife, civil partner, then that bank account could be transferred directly to the beneficiary, the remainder. If you've got a bank account just in your name, that would be subject to probate, and it could take a while to have access to that bank account. If you make gifts, by the way, that's now gone, isn't it? If you give that to your wife or your children, then it could be a part of your potential exempt transfers, or if it's between husband and wife, no problem. Have liquid assets or insurance to buy IHT. If you have buy-to-lets and you have no cash investments and you need to pay a huge IHT liability, you are causing your family a huge mess. So make sure you have liquid assets, or indeed insurance that's paid into a trust, because that's another mistake as you happen, to pay your IHT liability. And finally, review your IHT position regularly. We talk about your investments and assets as of today, but what are they going to be in 5, 10, 15 years time? If you survive that long, of course, and we hope you do, then you will have a bigger inheritance tax problem. Indeed, the rules may have changed altogether. So make sure you discuss our services about how we can help you with legacy to stop all of these problems. So my name is Simon Mishevich. I'm a UK investment tax specialist alongside a will writer as well. There's our website. Feel free to book a 10-minute discovery call with us using that QR code. Get your will done also using that QR code. The links will all be below in this description box. Thanks.